All right, well, let's get rolling. Thank you all very much for joining our March Eloqua User Group meeting, or our UG, as we call it. I'm KP, I'm your host for today, and joined by Kristen Connell from Sojourn, our head of marketing and growth at Sojourn. And let me get my screen stuff all set here. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. If you want to say hello or pop a comment in the chat, feel free to do that as well. This is hopefully going to be helpful for you guys as Eloqua users or potential Eloqua users. So I'm very honored to be the person that is hosting this and putting it together each month. So there's me, there's my one of the latest pictures of my pups. I try to keep this fresh. So I forgot to turn on my video. So you probably will see them at some point come in, and behind me it's on my right shoulder. They're usually in that dog bed back there. That's actually where this picture was taken. So those are my coworkers. They've dabbled a little bit with Eloqua and Pardot. They didn't use Marketo. That's my cats. They use Marketo. I'm such an idiot. Anyway, thanks for joining. What my background is that's relevant to this conversation is 16 years in marketing. I did 2 years in sales at Under Armour before that. Got a lot of Under Armour, really cheap. That was cool. I also did marketing at Red Bull. I switched over to marketing for technology companies and did that for 4 years. That's where I actually picked up Eloqua, and it was the old Eloqua interface. Fast forward, I've been doing consulting the last 12 years. So that means basically helping a lot of folks like yourselves and even people at Oracle that have tried to learn Eloqua over the years as well, and how to get the best value from it and optimize it. So it's been awesome to be able to be in this space for this long and still be part of the community. So, and what we're going to get through today. So it's not a packed agenda. We have a couple of reminders for you guys that I want to share with you to keep you on the Eloqua now. And then I'm going to walk you guys through. It's funny because we work with so many clients, we start to see trends of pains, and they sometimes are all on at the same time. Like one of these is tracking Eloqua forms and how people got to your Eloqua form. And some of you guys are probably nailing this. Others are like, wait a minute, Eloqua doesn't magically do that for me, like HubSpot did, or you had that platform before. So I'm going to share with you guys some tips on how to do that and even some code. That's my girlfriend. And anyway, the next topic is Piotr is going to go into some more Eloqua Insight reporting tips and tricks. So we'll start with just what are we doing and why. We didn't do that last time. My apologies. I think it helps to not just like dive into the platform and show you guys stuff, but kind of give a use case for why you would want to do something that we're sharing with you. And of course, we'll open it up for questions or tips anybody else wants to share. As a reminder, you'll get a copy of this recording. So if you have to pop out, feel free. For those listening to the recording, thanks for listening to the recording. And for next month, I'm trying to get somebody from Oracle to present. So we're trying to keep it a mix of get an Oracle product manager to present like at least every quarter, once a quarter, definitely about the Eloqua new release features coming out and fixes. So we just had the new release come out this month, so that's not really relevant. But anyway, we're trying to keep it a mix. If any of you guys as users want to present, please let me know. That's what the users have rated as their #1 pick for presenters. And then I think second was Oracle product folks. So I don't want to stalk you guys, but please, somebody volunteer to present. And we usually have presenters go for anywhere from like 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So you can do something quick if you want to. And don't feel like anything is too elementary to share. Like sometimes the simplest little things somebody else doesn't know are the most valuable. I definitely found that early in my career doing this stuff. So let's dive into the reminders. So first things first, if you didn't know or don't know what the marquees are, so Oracle has what are called the Marquee Awards every year annually. It's that term. They give out, usually it's anywhere from 10 to 15 different awards to the marketing cloud clients they have. Little history, this was actually created by Eloqua way before Oracle bought Eloqua. The first Marquee Awards ceremony, I think, was in Las Vegas. I won a Marquee in 2008 for automated scoring when it first came out. Like I was a beta tester for it. And now you guys, if you're using it, you're probably using the scoring engine. Back in the day, we used Program Builder, and it was not sexy. And you only did profile scoring, which wasn't even a term. It was called explicit criteria somebody gives you. Anyway, thankfully things have advanced and become way easier with scoring, way smarter. But there's an award where you can potentially highlight awesome stuff you've done with scoring. There are, I think, 14 awards. I did put it on the slide. 14 award categories you can nominate yourself for. If you want to nominate somebody else, you can do that too. So if you're a partner like Sojourn, you can do that for your clients or work with them on it. That's what we try to do for our clients to help them get the greatest chances possible to become a finalist, or better yet, a winner. And finalists do get recognition, a lot of recognition. And I think now they're going to do 5 finalists for each category. It used to be 3. So your chances are greater of becoming recognized or at least becoming a finalist. This is huge, guys. Like, in my opinion, in our world, not just the Oracle world or Eloqua world, but in the marketing world, to get a marquee award is awesome these days. I'm kind of ashamed of my award because it was like, if you looked at that scoring now, you'd be, well, ashamed. It's just, it was so old school. But anyway, nowadays, to get a marquee is a big deal for your company, for your team, for your career. To become a finalist is almost as awesome. Obviously, it's nice to be the #1 pick, but nowadays, if you're in that press release that goes out about the awards and the finalists, yeah. Anyway, I can't encourage you enough to take a look. If you're newer to Eloqua, your company hasn't been using it that long, maybe it's not the time, but at least take a peek and see what you could strive for. And they do keep a good history of the past award winners and finalists and their stories, so you can get ideas from them. Anyway, nominations are due March 26th, so not a lot of time, but I just want to make sure that we let you guys know. The second reminder here is Oracle had a big announcement, last year, I think it was last summer, about removing everybody's Eloqua servers, all those pods the servers are on, to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So that actually has been postponed for almost all the pods. Pod 7 people, you guys are good. You got that done already. Not actually in the future. You already did that October 2020. That's a typo on my slide. But pod 3 and 4, it's planned as of now for October of this year. Gus is not happy about this. She's not happy with the delay. And then pod 6 is to be determined. They don't have a time frame yet. Pod 1 and 2 are bumped to 2022 with no month, and that's likely because there are a lot of clients on pod 1 and 2. So that's where the pod started, hence the numbering 1, 2, all the way to 7. Typically, newer clients are put on pod 6 and 7. If you don't know what a pod is, it's basically a bunch of servers, hardware somewhere that Oracle manages. So the next reminder, the 21A release is out for all of us now, so that's cool. Hopefully, you're not feeling any bugs or pains from it. I think this is one of the better releases where it does seem like they QA'd it, because we're not seeing our customers' Eloqua instances have major issues for the most part. I think they did a hot fix last week. So kudos to Oracle on stepping up their game, because it's kind of been the history that, great, a new bunch of features come out in Eloqua, but now this other thing broke. So it looks like there's a progression there of improvement. Eloqua free training, just a friendly reminder, you have options if you don't have a paid Oracle subscription or learning subscription for paid Eloqua courses. There's quite a good number of free videos in the Help Center, Eloqua Help Center, and in Oracle University to take a peek at. I think there's 2 tracks in Oracle University. Some of the courses are like 5 minutes. I mean, they're not all an hour of your time. So they're worthwhile to take a peek at. And somebody asked me recently that was like, I feel like I know Eloqua pretty well, but I really want to take it to the next level. I'm not really sure what to do. There's various things you can do, but one of my suggestions would be, if you really want to take your Eloqua knowledge to the next level, it's just costs money. You have to get an Oracle learning subscription, but there's a track called the Eloqua Certified Implementer. And it's not just meant for like consultants like us, so we can learn all the ins and outs of implementing Eloqua. It is a part for that, but it also just teaches you all these nooks and crannies of Eloqua you wouldn't know about if you just dove in and started sending emails, or maybe were a part of your implementation but weren't the ones setting everything up. There's so much you learn from implementing Eloqua, hands in there doing. I can attest to that myself. So it's 13 hours. I think it's 13 hours and 1 minute to be exact, but you gotta pay for it, like I said. But anyway, just a suggestion if you're like, okay, some of these other courses are kind of basic, they're not as advanced as I want to get. I really want to get in the weeds and really embrace Eloqua. Anyway, that's just one thought. And then just last thing, our next Eloqua user group is Thursday, April 15th at 11 a.m. At first I thought it was like the 20th or something, but actually the way that April starts, April 1st is on a Thursday. Anyway, third Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern time is when we're holding these meetings. So I'm going to stop for a minute and do a quick poll. We didn't do a poll last month, so I want to just do a quick check to learn a bit more about you guys. So let me launch the first poll. So the first question is, how long have you been an Eloqua user? So thank you guys. Looks like more than half have voted. We'll give it 12 more seconds ish. And so far, okay, looks like everybody's pretty much voted. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Yep, there's nobody hitting here. So we've got 32 people that voted. It looks like 47% of you guys have 1 to 3 years of Eloqua experience. The next biggest group are less than a year. There's 28%. And then we've got a handful of people at 3 to 5, another handful 5 to 7 years, one person with 7 to 9 years, and one person with 10 plus. You old farts. Thanks for joining. I'm one too. At least with Eloqua experience. I started when I was 12 years old. So anyway, all right. So most of you guys are pretty fresh to this. That's an awesome spot to be in. So we'll get right to the content to help you guys get some learnings here from this meeting. Did see a question come in from Jordan about any tips for submitting a marquee. Jordan, we'll come back to that after we get through the two topics, but absolutely there are tips. And actually on the Marquee website, they have a section that is exactly that, about how to win, like what are some strategies to win. I will just say one really quick, data. Like, don't just say you did something awesome and it helped grow your company's revenue. How much did it grow your company's revenue? How did you do it? What exactly did you do to do that? And it's a lot about the story and the metrics. So, okay. I just said I wasn't going to give you the tips till later, but I just started to. All right, let's dive into the first topic. So tracking sources to your Eloqua forms. This is going to be me for a little bit longer. All right, so one of the first things here is, and there's my picture for you. It'd be lovely if this was out of the box functionality in Eloqua. What we're talking about here is you have Eloqua forms. You can have them hosted on an Eloqua landing page or on a website page that you guys manage, say through your CMS, say WordPress or Sitecore, and you want to know what drove somebody to that form page. Well, Eloqua doesn't magically do that. There's nothing in the platform that has a feature to enable or disable even. So it frustrates people. Some other platforms do have that, not all of them do, but I think HubSpot is one that does. So there's some people that come over to using Eloqua and they're like, wait, what? This doesn't magically happen? No, it doesn't. So there's two things I want to share with you guys today. Besides telling you that it's not out of the box, it does require JavaScript to do these two things. First is we want to know the last page somebody visited before they got to the page they're on where our form is when they submit it. So if I did a Google search or something and then I clicked the link and I came right to the page where the form was, I didn't have to visit around your website. It took me right to like your request a quote form or product demo or contact us, and I submitted it, then we would see the URL would be something with Google in it, or LinkedIn, or Facebook, or an ad you have somewhere, or another page on your website. So we call that the referring URL. Some people just have it in their form as a hidden field called referring. So if you're using an Eloqua instance now that you didn't set up and you see that, that's typically what that field is supposed to capture. The page somebody was on before they came to the page with the Eloqua form on it. Second thing here is we want to pull values from the URL where the form is to pass some values into Eloqua as hidden form fields to let us know details about where they came from. Oftentimes people use UTM values. Google has various UTM values like campaign, medium, and source. In my little example here, this is actually from this month's Eloqua user group meeting registration form, which probably all of you guys saw or submitted. And when Kristen marketed this through our Eloqua, so we send out an invitation to you guys We post it on LinkedIn, we post it on Twitter. I don't think we do Facebook much anymore, but really LinkedIn and Twitter are social areas where we get the most traction, so we focus there. But anyway, this is an example from one of our Eloqua emails, the invitation. And what Eloqua does do, which is nice, is you have to turn this on. It will add these UTM parameters. So there's the query string parameter, UTM underscore campaign. And then the query string value, that's the actual name of the email, sorry, the campaign where the invitation was sent from. And then there's the query string parameter for medium, email. Email is a medium, social could be a medium. You can decide what your mediums are, direct mail maybe. And then source, in this case, Eloqua. You might have source something like LinkedIn. So medium social, source LinkedIn, medium social, source Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. So the nice thing about this is not only do we have JavaScript to pull these values, and this is an actual snapshot from our Eloqua form submission report, but the JavaScript passes those values into the hidden form fields. Like you can see UTM campaign, medium, and source, and that's what happened on our Eloqua form. Thankfully, now we know Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan's a big fan of Sojourn. It's kind of neat. Actually, no, that's just me testing and using Shaka Khan. But anyway, we can see that Shaka actually got to this form from an invitation we sent out through Eloqua. Pretty straightforward. And the other benefit I was going to mention of using UTM values is in this way is that it will pass to Google Analytics. If you use Google Analytics, they look for the UTMs being hit and it will pass there. So I'm going to show in Eloqua, bear with me one second, where you turn on this piece with Google Analytics. And I have too many things open in Zoom. All right, one second, please stand by. And here we go. Nope, that's not it. Son of a nutcracker, I forgot where it is. I haven't done this in a while. We've had it set up in our Eloqua for a long time. I think it's under the email. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here we go. So in Eloqua, if you go to components, or sorry, email setup, email defaults, this is, by the way, whenever you see this like gray, blue, light blue, brown, gray, tan, that's Eloqua 9. It just hasn't been updated in Eloqua yet. This version of Eloqua is technically, I guess, called Eloqua 10. Maybe there's a different name in Oracle now for it, but this is the old Eloqua interface that Oracle needs to get their bums in gear. Yes, please, Oracle, get rid of Eloqua 9 everywhere in Eloqua someday. So what I'm pointing out for you guys, I'm going to make my screen a little bigger here. This option right here, external tracking. If you check the box and choose Google Analytics, you can choose some other options as well. Like if you have Adobe, I think Web Trends was Adobe's, forget. Anyway, so Google Analytics is what we wanted to select. By default, your Eloqua will be unchecked. So if I check this and choose Google Analytics, Eloqua will now automatically add those UTM parameters and values, both of them, to your links in all of your emails. If you prefer to hard code them for other purposes, like you don't use Google Analytics, you can absolutely do that as well. So when you're building out an email, you obviously have the ability to structure the links as you wish. So if I wanted to do that here, oh, that's not a good example. Let's say I wanted to make this one and add my own query string parameters. I could say UTM underscore campaign equals XYZ. XYZ ampersand makes the next query string parameter come available, UTM underscore content equals social. So anyway, if you don't know what query strings are, query string parameters, there is a course through the learning subscription with Oracle University to do that. You can also Google it. Eloqua Help Center is where I would go to first and foremost. But anyway, because we have that option for Google Analytics checked off in our Eloqua, it will automatically, you can see it creates those UTM parameters for us. I didn't do any of that. So let me go back to the presentation. So again, the two things we're trying to do is know what page somebody was on, that referring page that got somebody to our form page. And the second thing is we want to know more details about like not just the URL where they came from, but like, was it social? Was it LinkedIn? Was it a direct mail piece through a certain vendor? Was it an email sent out of Eloqua? What campaign? You know, get specific. Big caution here. So this, I just learned this like a month ago from our Eloqua developers. If a visitor goes to a secure page, like on Google, those are secure now. Most of the web, World Wide Web is secure. If your Eloqua landing pages are not, this is kind of the recommendation out of this or tip. You want to work with Oracle support and your IT team to make your Eloqua landing page subdomains secure. So all your Eloqua landing pages will be secure. Ours are not. We are in the process of working on this. We are naughty. We should have done this years ago. Anyway, we're getting it done. Thank you, Kristen, for helping get that done at Sojourn. So if a visitor goes from, let's say, a Google search to your Eloqua landing page with the form on it, and it's not secure, this is not going to work because basically Google's preventing you from seeing information. It won't let you pass that to the next page that has JavaScript that's trying to pull from Google, or the last page the person was on. So we highly recommend, I can't reiterate it enough, if you're using Eloqua landing pages, putting forms on those landing pages, using landing pages at all, make sure they're secure, meaning they have HTTPS. And if you are wondering, well, does our Eloqua use that? You can always just pull up a landing page and click on it and see this is one way to do it. You can come into here and, oh, I built this. I did my cute little vanity URL. It's not very cute, not very creative, but I never said I was. And you can see it's not secure right here in Chrome. And then ultimately in Eloqua, the way that this part of the setup will happen in, oh, shoot, I need to get my little stinking video out of the way. Where are the darn subdomains? All right, hang on one second for me. I haven't had to look at this in a long time either. Set up. All right, if anybody wants to chat in where the thinking subdomains are, components, email setup, nope. Microsites, there we go. All right, who chatted? There we go, Piotr, thank you. So I went to components, sorry, the assets area, website setup, microsites. So this is where just the subdomain is set up on the Eloqua side. Your IT team sets it up usually as a subdomain off of your main domain. And that just means like there's a word before your domain, like go, like for our examples here, these are great examples. And now all of these are not secure. I don't think we've built, this one might be our first secure one. And you can actually click down here and start to see if you've got SSL certificates. This is part of the process to get that set up to be secure, that subdomain. So this is going to take a second to load. And you can see Sojourn, our website is secure. That's great, but we don't have the certificate yet and setup done with Eloqua, and Oracle support is required to do this. So it's usually you coordinating between somebody on your IT team or whoever, maybe it's a web agency that manages setting up subdomains for you, and purchasing an SSL certificate is required as well. Oracle doesn't give that away. And anyway, so then you work with Oracle support, you log a ticket or service request, and they have to do some magic on their end, on the back end of Eloqua, to make this work as well. So let me go back here. There's not a back button. That'd be nice, guys. And then I think that's really it. I don't think you actually want to use this. There's Eloqua 9 again. Okay, so I'm kind of digressing, but I just want to give a little bit of background on some of these other areas that, again, stuff I didn't know about for many years. And it would have helped me back in the day if somebody had been like, hey, KP, come over here, and this is what this means. And you should be secure, not, insecure with a lot of situations in life, including Eloqua. So your landing pages should be secure for these solutions to work. So diving deeper. So getting that referring URL and passing it to the hidden form field called typically refer, or I like to just call it an Eloqua referring URL. So it's very explicit. This is sample JavaScript code that will pull that URL, this is what it will look like in Eloqua. So if you're like, okay, how does this actually magically happen and look in Eloqua? So this code gets added to the landing page, either in Eloqua or on your website where the form is. And then you have to test it, make sure it works. And then what you should see in the form submission data report is that field getting filled out, as you can see here. So I forget which form this is of ours. This might be our contact us, but we can see people coming in from Google, from other pages on our website. We had a little bit of a streak recently where we had some people asking us about our visible services, Tableau, blah, blah, blah. Moving on. So the next thing is, this is not too much different of how you go about it, but JavaScript code again is needed to pull those UTM values, those query string parameters from the page URL and pass those to the hidden form field. So this is sample JavaScript code. I'm not going to like email this code out to you guys, because if you're not a JavaScript expert, you'll have a lot of questions and then it just gets us down a rabbit hole. But also it's just not our intention to just like give everybody code and have you say, you know, thanks and good luck. So what this ends up looking like, again, the code, both sets of code go into the landing page or your website page as JavaScript code. And this is what it will look like ultimately in Eloqua. I gave you the example on the last 2 slides ago of the form submission data report snapshot, but here's an actual form. So this is this month's Eloqua user group registration form in our Eloqua instance. And you can see a lot of people that registered actually registered from the invitation email that we sent out of Eloqua. So, and then you can see down below, if I just move my face out of the way, some also came from our social post that we did on LinkedIn. I didn't see anything, I think, coming from Twitter. So there you have it. That's what I wanted to share. Let me just look really quick at questions before I hand it off to Piotr. All right, so let me come back. You know what? I'm going to try to answer these while Piotr is doing his part, so I don't waste any more time. Thank you guys very much. Piotr, I'm going to now hand it over to you. I've got a slide that we put together, but if you want to reintroduce yourself to folks, because we might have some folks who were not on the last meeting where you presented other reporting tips. So, oh shoot, you know what? I need to make it so you can speak. Hang on one second. That would be helpful. What a jerk. All right, allow to talk. I think it's kind of funny they use the word allow, like.
Thank you.
There you go.
I was waiting for that. Thank you for the introduction once again. Welcome everybody. My name is Piotr. I'm marketing automation consultant for almost 3 years working for Sojourn. And this is basically a continuation of the Insight training that we had on our previous Eloqua user group meeting. So for those who didn't have a chance to join us last month, I talked about different methods of creating prompts. 2 of those were called inline, and these are created at the analysis level and cannot be added to other analyzers. And the third method that I want to walk you guys through today is called a dashboard prompt. So this is something that will save you some time and speed up the process of running more complex dashboards, as you can see on this animated GIF.
So just to reiterate to Piotr, so the whole, why we're sharing this tip is to save time, because the opposite of doing this would be you wouldn't have the ability to have the prompts at the top of the screen there, like in the example. So you'd have to go through each report and rerun them. So just naturally it would take more time, be more kind of a pain in the bum to do. So just as far as stepping back and thinking about, well, why would I even do this? So with that, let me stop sharing. And then that way you can share your screen.
I don't think I can. I can't see that share button anywhere. All right. Sharing my screen. There we go. So let's imagine you would like to create a dashboard that displays data for specific campaigns by different campaign types and different campaign regions. It will look more or less like what I am currently sharing with you. So in example, we got 4 separate analyzers. 1, 2, 3, 4, sharing the same subject area. But you also would like to have a chance to limit the data displayed on the dashboard. So this is where you might find dashboard prompts quite helpful. The first thing that you need to do is create a dashboard prompt by navigating to the New tab and clicking on Dashboard Prompts option. Select subject area, which in this case would be campaign analysis. Now we need to select a column. So we are looking for a campaign type and campaign region. You can add a meaningful label or leave the name as it is. And then you can decide how prompt should look on the dashboard by selecting the user input type, such as checkboxes, for example. You can also limit the number of checkboxes values by using specific column values. Yeah, that's the option. So I'm gonna limit that list a little bit. So I'm gonna go for, let's say, blog, email, event, and a couple more. Click OK. And now you can add a second prompt for your campaign region. Once again, you can name the prompt and make it a checkbox 2, and also limit the checkbox values. I'm gonna go for Canada, Europe, global, and North America. Click OK. You can use the new column checkbox to rearrange the prompt so the campaign region is positioned to the right of campaign types. So you can use the display panel on the bottom left corner to see how the prompt will look on the dashboard. There you go. Now we need to save it. Now go to your analysis and edit. So in this particular dashboard, we got 4 separate reports. So we would need to edit each one of those. I'm going to start with this one. So what you need to do is you need to ensure that the analysis which will be added to the dashboard respects the new prompt that you just created. So for the prompt to work properly on the dashboard, a filter for both campaign type and campaign region needs to be added. And the value for each prompt should be set to the isPrompt operator. So I've already built that report before, which is why we already have those filters right here. But if you would like to do this by yourself, you would need to go to campaign type, select filter, and choose the operator that is equal to isPrompt. Click OK. and this will appear right here. You would need to do the exact same process for both campaign type and campaign region. Save the analysis, and you would need to do this for each of the analyzers that is a part of the dashboard, as long as you would like to use the prompt to filter those. So now we edited our analysis. We need to go to our dashboard and edit. In Dashboard Builder, you would need to drag and drop the campaign type region prompt to the work area of the current dashboard page. So on the bottom left corner, you get the catalog with all available objects within Insight. You would need to find the prompt that you just created and basically just drag and drop it whenever you need that. Click Save. And run the dashboard. Now you can ensure that the prompt works properly. I'm going to select a couple of values to see what happened. Click Apply. And all 4 analyzers are being automatically updated by the prompt values you've selected right here. I'm going to play around with that a bit. So, dashboard prompts are reusable because you can create one prompt and use it many times. When the prompt object is updated and saved, those updates are immediately displayed in all dashboards where the prompt is used. When applied to a dashboard or dashboard pages, it can filter all or just some of the analyzers in the dashboard or multiple analyzers on the same dashboard page. It's interactive. It is always displayed on the dashboard page so that the user can prompt for different values without having to rerun the dashboard over and over. So that's basically saves a lot of time. That's basically all for today. So if there are any insight-related topics that you would like to know more about, please reach out to Karin or myself.
We actually have 2 questions for you. So if you want to look at the Q&A, there is one from Jennifer. She asks, I tried following documentation on creating prompts for dashboard, but they actually don't work when I click on them. Thoughts on what step I may have missed? Or maybe questions for her.
Yes, I would say that it's most likely because this option hasn't been specified. Like we need to ensure that the columns, the attributes that we would like to prompt for are filtered, and by filtering, I mean use this operator that is equal to isPrompt. If this is like selected, I'm pretty sure that this should work just fine. All right, we got another question. Oh no, sorry, it's not related to the insight.
Lori does have one that's related to insight. Do you see that one there? I'll just read out loud for everybody. So if you're not looking at your screen, her question is, when changing the filters on the individual analysis to match the dashboard prompt, do you also need to do anything under the analysis specific prompt tab? And then she says, do we clear out any existing prompts?
All right. Let me check that, and I can get back to you in like a minute or two, if that's okay.
Yep, what I'll do is Lori and Piotr, I will just put you guys together on an email
Yeah,
so we don't lose
great.
track of this. I'll send that out after this meeting. I have copied your question, Lori, so we will get back to you on that. And there we go. Let me just mark that one. Not as done, but we will finish that one for you. And then the next question kind of goes back to the topic I was covering. So Jake asked, is the hidden form field capture related to query string area of Eloqua as well? If not, how do you recommend using that area of the system? So what is he talking about? So I'm going to share my screen again. Share screen 2. So let me answer this live. So it is related, definitely, Jake. So in Eloqua, if you go to website setup and then query strings, this Eloqua 9 comes up again. How nice. So you've got parameters, parameter sets, and clusters. Clusters of what? I don't know. But anyway, there's more here than you may ever need, but you've got these 3 categories. A lot of people start out with a query string parameter, and this is just for internal purposes, the display name. So you might call this like UTM campaign. You don't have to use UTM. So a long time ago, when I first started doing this stuff in Eloqua, Google Analytics wasn't as big of a thing. Not everybody had it like a lot of folks do now, or even web analytics tools, unfortunately. But anyways, you create the parameter here. So like Google's already created their parameters for certain things. If I pull up the presentation I had, you can see some of the parameters they've created. Like you've got UTM underscore campaign, that is a parameter. UTM underscore medium, that's a parameter. You don't, some people have their own parameters that they create. Like for instance, they might just do SRC to be source or something else. And then these are the combinations of values that get used in that query string URL, and the URL using the query string, I should say. So question mark, here comes the parameter, and then here comes the value that we're using for that parameter. It's confusing for me. It took a while to wrap my head around, but what I just wanted to point out is this is the part of Eloqua that sets these things up. And Eloqua comes with some like email recipient, ELQ, that little piece there. Refer a friend if you're ever using that. This was the value that we chose to set up back in 08. We didn't have Eloqua then, so I don't know. Anyway, this came with Eloqua as well. So some people will pass the campaign ID through the URL, and then you can use some magic to pass that to CRM. CID is a common value people use for that. You don't have to come in here and do the Google ones. If you go to that other spot that I showed you guys, email setup, email defaults, and then click this box and choose Google Analytics, it will take care of adding those UTM campaign content, etc., to the links. So they're tied together. What I would say as well is in the Help Center, they do go through a pretty good job of explaining query string parameters to help you get more analysis out of using Eloqua. If you're not using Google Analytics, this would probably be more applicable to those folks, because if you're using Google Analytics, you're probably going to check this and use that. Now, there was a good question by Eli. Thanks for asking about, well, if I turn this on and we're using Google Analytics and I've been using Eloqua for a couple of years, what might it break? And I wouldn't just everybody go into your Eloqua and check this and click it and turn it on and update your email settings. That's how it'll stay on. If in your emails right now, let me go open one. If you guys are already using query string parameters, and when you build the link, you already do the process of like Eloqua's automatically putting that there. If you do the process of right now doing something like CID equals, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that will get overwritten with the UTM query string parameters and values. So now this query string parameter is going to be overwritten when, if I close out of here. So you just have to be careful about using your own customized query string parameters and that setting for the Google Analytics. So there is some information. I think I put it as well. Let me pop it up on my screen. Bear with me 1 second. The help center, thank goodness, this stuff was things like 10 years ago we had to figure out on our own. There wasn't really good documentation on it, but there is pretty good documentation. If you go to, this is the email section of the help center way down, global email defaults, and then there's obviously various things in that section of Eloqua. External tracking, they've got a little bit of information here. Oops, geez, I just clicked on something else. Awesome. So not a lot, but there is a little bit of information. And then this isn't going to give you, like Eli, what you're asking for, like, well, what else should we look out for beyond what KP shared? Well, you could hire us and ask. No, I'm just kidding. I would go to Topliners and ask in the community there. It might even be already answered because there are a lot of people that use this feature, and we have clients who do it in tandem of having their own customized query string parameter values used as well. Not super common, but some people do both, and you just don't want to take the time to build your customized URL and get it in here and then have it overwritten by Eloqua with the Google Analytics UTM parameters. So that's that. Let me check for more questions. Okay, somebody did put into the chat. Hang on, let me get caught up on the chat really quick. We're almost done here.
It was probably me. I've tried to answer that question that came from Lori. So yeah, like both inline prompts and dashboard prompts can work together in parallel, but it's not a best idea, to be honest. I would recommend to move all filtering to the dashboard level and remove the inline prompts from the individual analyzers, which is quite simple. You just need to go to the individual analyzers, go to the prompts tab, which is next to the criteria and results tab, select all the filters and remove them like one by one.
Yeah. Thank you, Pio. There's so much to Insight. It's like a beast, but it's better than not having the power, in my opinion. We hear from a lot of people that struggle with the other big players out there for marketing automation platforms, and reporting is just like, it's what you get out of the box. You get the canned reports, as we call them, and you can do some customizations, but they're not business intelligence tools like Insight. So more times than not, people outgrow those canned reports and they want something more like Insight. It's kind of ironic because as Eloqua users, we're like, Insight's so hard to use and kind of ugly, but at least it has the breadth of what you would need over time. Like, you likely won't outgrow it for the most part because it is a BI tool. So let me go back. There was another question here. And where's the chat thing on my screen? Hang on one second, guys. There we go. Okay. So we run into a situation where Eloqua overrides our UTM scripts and we have to correct. Why does that happen? Well, that could be just what I was sharing about, where you might have that Google Analytics box checked, or it could be another option in this, the drop down. It might not be Google. And if you're doing your own custom UTM values or just query string values and then saving it, I think when Eloqua sends it out, it adds its own the UTMs because of that email default setting. And now there's another question, image question. Is there a report for the image library? Trying to get a fast way to review all images and permissions for images. Is that even possible to do? No, but the Oracle answer is going to be ICX content, right? Like Eloqua's image library and file storage. First of all, they have limits. I mean, images can get large, but like files typically can be larger. It's a 10 megabyte per file limit in Eloqua, which doesn't work well if you have like a recording of a video you want to put here. I mean, there's other solutions for that, like Bright Cove and others, but CX content is their answer for having a much more of it's called a digital asset management platform. In Eloqua, there's no reporting for here either. And like mass asset management, or sorry, image management is not there. I don't know if it's on their roadmap. I know I've spoken with Eloqua, one of the Eloqua product managers in the last 2 years about this, when they asked us about like day-to-day stuff that can get challenging, and asset management was one key area that I talked to them about, and images were one of the topics, because basically you can come in here and you can folder and drag and drop stuff around, or you can get the thumbnail view, and that's about it, right? Like you can hit shift and like move stuff around if you want, but it can't do what you're asking for, Jennifer. It's a long-winded answer for no, but yeah, like, so CX content is not extremely expensive. That's one nice thing, and it's not a heavy lift to set it up. It's a much, it's a smaller lift to implement or set up than Eloqua, thankfully. And it has like the CMS component to it, where you can like build pages on it if you want as well, or you can just use the DAM part of it. And if you do that, and what you would definitely do is connect it to Eloqua, this would be basically get replaced by CX content. So when you're going into your email and you're pulling in an image, it'll get way better. Like if I want to replace this won't look to the Eloqua image library anymore. It'll look to the CX content image library and the search capabilities, like to tag images. Like this picture of Mark could be Mark Tarot. It could be Oracle. It could be cute guy smiling. It could be so many different things. Professional photo versus a chick in the sunset, a man in a suit on a mountain. I mean, you can tag things so many different ways. And Eloqua, as you guys know, we can't tag these. All we can do is name them. That's it. That's like not really tagging. So searching becomes not fun and takes longer, and it's not as organized as it could be. Hence the reason DAMs came about. So not just for Eloqua, but for a lot of different reasons. Because then if this is the picture of Mark I have, shouldn't our whole company have like the latest version of that picture of Mark? So if I pull it into an Eloqua email and Kristen pulls it onto our website and Adam pulls it into a PowerPoint, we should all be using the latest, best picture of Mark in that situation, or that we all should be using for our logo. So the DAMs help standardize that as well. So you don't have an image library in Eloqua, an image library on your website, CMS, an image library that like some other department uses, and then everything is just coordinated as a brand. So that comes back to the customer experience. I'm not trying to sell you guys on CX content. I mean, there are other tools like it, but you definitely can't go much further with Eloqua's image and file library, unfortunately. Let me just look through here. And if anybody ever wants to become unmuted, guys, please, you're always welcome to. You don't always have to hear me jabbering. You can just put that in the chat. Let me just make sure we have 7 minutes left. Not that we're going to use all of it. Make sure there's not questions we missed. Feel free to pop them in there if you do have any. There's your entertainment while we're waiting. I lost the chat again. Let's back up. All right. I think we got everything. Okay, if we did miss your question, I don't want to bore you guys. If we missed your question, or if you think of something later, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to email everybody this afternoon with a copy of this recording. You guys, and I'll pop into it as well, some of the links that we've shared today. If you ever have any questions or feedback on this user group and how it's run, please feel free to just let me know. I don't take anything personally. So, I mean, I do sometimes, but I won't with that. So just let me know. And then again, a call for a presenter or speaker for April or May or June. If you want to present, again, 5 minutes, maybe it could be less than 5 minutes, 30 minutes, ideally on the high end. Let me know, and I'm happy to help you to get prepared to present. If it's your first time, that's exciting. I'd be happy to help you guys. And I think that's basically it for today. So we'll come back together again next month, April 15th, 11 a.m. Eastern time. UK folks, European folks, definitely Asia Pac folks. Sorry this is so late for you guys, but you're probably not actually here. You might be just listening to the recording. But anyway, if you are here, thank you for attending live. And for everybody else, really appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us today. I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday and your weekend, and we will see you in a month. Bye, everybody.